Welcome back. I'm Larry. So tonight we're going to be working on my 1976 Ford truck. All right, so I already got the hood off. My buddy helped me with that. Jesse at 6 Speed Media. Shout out to him. Thanks a lot. Couldn't have done it without him. We're starting the process of finally getting this engine out of here. He did this old, just weak 302 out and getting ready to install that beautiful 351 Cleveland. So far I went ahead and drained the radiator. So I took the hood off, obviously, drained the radiator and got the belts off. So we're just going to start going through this process of getting everything disconnected and getting ready to pull. All right, so I kind of got ahead of myself. I was going to show pulling the engine, but I was working by myself and I was kind of, excitement took over and I went ahead and pulled the engine out. Anyway, this is where we're at right now. So I got the engine out and I started cleaning everything up. So I went ahead and cleaned up my AC panel here. I'm gonna paint that black and freshen that up while the engine's out and out of the way. And as a little tip here, what I would recommend doing is I would drill out those 3 holes right here. Drill out those 3 rivets. And I'm going to put bolts in there with nuts. And the reason for that is there's nothing wrong with my blower motor right now. But if for some reason that blower motor should ever go out, the blower motor is inside this panel. So instead of having to remove this entire box or, try to finesse going in from the inside somehow, instead of having to fight all that in the future or find a way around the engine, I went ahead and took those out now. And I'll put bolts in there because of the engine in here, especially with the Cleveland, it's wider, it's a little bit taller. It'll be even harder than it would have been with the 302 in here, and it would have been difficult with the 302. So I went and took them 3 back ones out because they're the hardest to get to. I'll put bolts in there, and then if the blower motor ever goes out and I need to replace it and I need to remove this, I can just come in and finish taking these up because I got room. I should have room even with the engine in here to get a drill in here this way, but if not, I can get an angle drill behind it here and drill that one out, and then obviously these are easy to get to. Or worst case, take a grinder and grind the head of it off and pop it out. The other thing I did is I went in here and started cleaning up my radiator support. So I sanded all this down nice and smooth. Now, you may wonder why is all this nice and smooth now, and then this is still old and kind of, dingy. Well, the reason for that is I'm not painting this part of it right now. I'm going to tape it off on the top here and just paint the inside. And the reason for that is I have plans in the future to remove this grill to polish it. And then when the grill is removed, I can just come in here and put tape on the inside edge going all the way down, tape up my holes. And then when the grill out, I can go through and sand everything down and then paint it then. And it'll be a lot easier to get everything from the top all the way to the bottom instead of just halfway painting it, the parts that you see. And then I can paint my hood latch and everything then at that time. But at least this will be painted to where I don't have to worry about this anymore. And that'll be good to go. Alrighty, so we got everything pressure washed now. You can see it's a whole lot cleaner in here. Got everything degreased. Even the firewall is brighter again. I ain't never seen it that bright, so I might go in there. I got a little bit of white paint. I might touch that up a little bit. But this is one of those things where, I'm not going to worry about painting the frame. And the reason being is because if I start on that, it'll never stop. It's like a domino effect. You start in one area, and then, you find something else you want to clean or painting. So I think the best thing to do for now to approach this is paint the parts that I really need to paint. Like, for instance, painting this firewall is another monumental task to do it properly. So I may just shoot where the primer from the factory starting to show through just to cover that up. But I'm not gonna worry about taping up everything and painting the whole firewall. I'm gonna paint the radiator support, like I said. And as badly as I would love to paint this frame, it's just, it starts getting into a whole lot more disassembly. And yeah, this is the time to do it while the engine's out. But the problem is, if I do this part here, then I'm going to want to keep on going. It still looks good though. I'm glad to have it degreased. I've never seen it this clean. I can actually see the frame and all. So make it a whole lot better to work on because I won't get greasy anymore. So that's good. But with this being done, now we can go in. I'm going to go ahead and install those bolts that are down there. What I picked up for that is these Allen button head bolts. And the reason being is these look kind of like rivets. That's why I wanted this instead of just a regular traditional bolt. I wanted this because I can install it. And once it's painted black, because I'm going to install them now, and I'll paint them black when I paint everything else. So to really blend in, you really won't even know it. And I got a lock washer to go on the backside, or a lock nut, I mean, to go on the backside to keep it from vibrating loose. And an Allen head obviously up front. But when this is in there, it'll look kind of like a rivet. And then if I ever need to take it off, like I said, these will come right out. And these are a 3/16 size bolt. All right, so we have what I need to paint it in here. You see I touched up that firewall back there to touch up where that factory primer had bled through, kind of cleaned it up. I couldn't go all the way to the top because it's just a lot of tape and everything, and it's fine for now. If I ever remove the cab off this truck to do any kind of work, then I'll tackle that bridge whenever I come to it. We got this painted. That looks beautiful. And you can see, like I said, I left my factory rivets up top where they're easy to get to. But you can see those Allen button head bolts really do look nice. They look like a rivet from a distance. You can't really tell. So, and that's the good thing about that. I installed a new steering coupler rack joint. I have a video of me doing that will be posted as well. And now to show you how the radiator support turned out. I think it turned out really, really good. Got all the way down to here. Down there where dirt and all collects, I washed that out really good and painted it to prevent it from rusting. And that turned out really, really nice. It's got a really nice finish on it. So now the only thing left to do is get ready to install the engine now. So that will be the next step. Alrighty guys, this is where we're at now. I know I have not made any videos really doing like a step-by-step or, you know, kind of going along because I had to work by myself a lot of the time, working at nights, and I just wanted to get it done. So I wanted to do a video of dropping the engine in, but I didn't get to it. I got too excited really, and then too anxious, and yeah, like I said, working by myself at night. But it's all cool. We got the engine installed. It is done. It fits great. It really fills out this engine bay. It looks so much better than that 302 sitting in there. So, and I will do a video at some point covering exactly what all I had to do to get a Cleveland to fit in one of these trucks. Now, I am about to do the first startup. I got to put antifreeze back in it. I put antifreeze in it one time, and it started leaking at this plug here. So I had to change that plug out. Not a big deal, but then I also noticed it was just barely trickling out. You probably can't see it now, but down here, between the timing cover and the block, it was just barely trickling down. So I had to tear the whole front of the engine back off and change the gasket and put it back together. Apparently, you know, I didn't put enough RTV on it when I assembled it, trying to be a little bit neater, and the design of that gasket has a relief cut, and it was leaking past the relief cut. So even though this is an old gasket, it still is the same principle. You see how it has this relief cut right here. And what it is, where the block is, you can even see it on this one, where the block barely hits the gasket portion right there. So you have this very little teeny tiny part of a gasket to seal, and the block only hits part of it. And on my gasket material was actually thinner than that on the aftermarket Felpro. This is an original Ford gasket. But on that Felpro, it was even thinner than that. It was on the very edge. So it was leaking coming down this bypass cutout relief, and then leaking between the block and the timing cover. So this time around, I made sure I RTV'd the hell out of it to make sure it don't do that again. So we're going to cross fingers. I'm about to pour antifreeze back in it now, and hopefully all is dry and sealed up tight. Alright, so as you just heard, the engine is running and installed. The only thing I got left to do, besides put the hood on, is put my heat riser shield down here to hook up for the air cleaner. I gotta go get another bolt and to mount it with. Other than that, it is done. Alrighty, now we're back in the shop and we got the hood back on, and now just to give like a kind of a better close-up overview of it. You can see how this really turned out really nice. So you got them decals in there and makes it look stock and factory. All the bracketry bolted up perfectly. And something I did want to mention is on my power steering bracket, because Cleveland's, as far as I know, didn't use this style of power steering bracket that I know of. Maybe they did, but I don't think so. But with the AC bracket, what I had to do, I had to ever so slightly modify the power steering bracket just a little bit. What I ended up doing was grinding this edge ever so slightly, just a little bit to clear this brace part of the AC bracket. But not a big deal. You can see that you can't really tell, honestly. If I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. But I had to just barely grind that ear away a little bit to smooth it out. And then I had to space it out a little bit with a couple washers. I want to try to find a spacer that'll go in there eventually, but instead of them washers. But for now, it works like it should be. You see that the belts are lined up perfectly, so it's not a problem. You know, I haven't had any issues with it, but it is something I do want to kind of change later. But nothing, no big deal there. Everything else bolted up though. This is off my 302. Obviously, that's off 302. Alternator bracket's off 302. Everything's off 302 except for the base bracket for the AC compressor. That's different for a Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, everything looks really, really good. It turned out absolutely great. I could not be more happier with it. I love this engine. I love this build. I love everything about it. It is, you know, it's great. I put so much work and time and attention to detail in it, and I think it turned out really, really great. And it just really helps fill out that engine bay more. Looks a whole lot better than the 302 did, and like I said, helps fill it out a little bit better. And I really, really like that a lot. And you know, even with the air conditioner, you see I still have plenty of room to work around it and everything, which is really good. So it's a tighter fit, obviously, than the 302, but I still have room to work on it, which is very, very nice. Also, one thing I wanted to cover real quick is as far as the engine installation. So I had to kind of redo my wiring just a little bit. You see how this is tight because the wiring's not quite long enough. I will have a video in the future covering this because this is actually broke anyway, so I got to replace this. That's why it's zip tied. So I'm going to have a video on how to replace those and also how I'm going to extend my wire to make this give a little bit more slack without hurting the factory wiring, hopefully. But what I had to do is, because my temperature sending unit on the 302 was back here behind the distributor. So I had to extend my wire from here to come down to here. Now I did have to, I don't know how we can see it, but right there. Now I did have to actually cut the wire to extend it, unfortunately. I don't really like cutting wires. What I ended up doing was I completely unwrapped this entire wiring harness that goes all the way back to the firewall. All that tape. I completely unwrapped all of it because it was cracked and peeling anyway, so I need to retape it anyway. But did that, and I was able to get a little bit of extra slack, but not enough. So I had to cut the wire and add some wire to it, unfortunately, but not a big deal. I don't usually like cutting wires, but since I know this is going to be a permanent installation and I'm not taking the engine back out, it didn't matter to me. I went ahead and made it permanent. So made the wire permanent, I mean, because the engine's permanent. Now when it comes to the oil, you know, originally I had said that I put my, I don't know how you can see it down here, but I had said I put my oil sending unit down here because on the 302 it would come out and you'd plug in, but the problem is it was hitting the power steering pump. So I couldn't do that. So I got my aftermarket gauge hooked in there, and then I got the factory gauge hooked in the back where it actually belongs. So what I had to do for that is when I unwound this, I found that they kind of had it curled back a little bit anyway, so I had a little bit extra slack, or that might have been a temperature wire, but one of them had, like, it kind of comes up, then it goes back, and then it came back up, and they had it taped. So I got a little bit of slack out, maybe a couple inches. But anyway, so there's the aftermarket gauge coming up in that hose there. Keeping that hose to protect the brass line or the copper line. And it goes up into the firewall, obviously. But what I did with the factory wiring is I took my original wiring, and when I unwrapped this, I actually pulled the wiring back as far as I could to go to the back. And you can see it comes out right there out of the wiring harness and cuts over like that and splices in. Now, since my factory wire it was about to break right there by that fitting anyway, what I ended up doing was cutting it off because it weren't quite long enough anyway to reach way back here. Even pulling it back to here, it still weren't quite long enough. So I cut it right behind where it was about to break off on the wire anyway. And this is actually a wire out of a points distributor. And I just cut that wire off, spliced into it, wrapped it up in tape back in here, and then hooked it up so it works perfectly. And it looks factory, you can't even tell. And that's really, I think, about it for the engine installation that I can think of covering right now at this moment. Like I said, I will have a video in the future covering what I did to install a Cleveland in one of these trucks. Okay, so I know it's going to be hard to really see everything, but this is a quick overview of what I did to the exhaust. So you can see this is my old exhaust here. I ended up cutting it and got me a stainless steel exhaust kit off Amazon. Clamped it here. I am going to weld this eventually, probably. The clamp is kind of convenient, but I'm probably going to weld this eventually. I just haven't done it yet. And then the same thing over here. I had to cut it further back just because of the way the old exhaust was ran. It kind of curved right there, so I had to cut it right behind the curve to run it straight. Because you can see now I have my pipes going straight down each side. Instead of before, like the passenger side would come down like this, but then the driver's side curved and kind of went underneath the tail shaft and went up, and it was just stupid. I didn't like it. So changed it and actually ran it the way I wanted, and I did it all myself. So yeah, I think it turned out really good. This is actually not touching the exhaust manifold, just the speedometer cable. It actually ran perfectly to where it's not touching. I did this as an extra precaution just to help protect it even more so, because I just didn't want it to melt my speedometer cable. But it's not touching, and you can see I got a gap between the cross member. So everything actually worked very well. Now the parking brake cable is touching a little bit, but that's also why I ran this protective sheathing over it. I wanted to protect it as best as possible, and so far it's holding up really, really well. I'm very pleased with it. So up here now, I'm not a welder, so you have to excuse my crappy welds here. Plus, this is my old welder. I ended up buying a new welder. This is before I bought the new one, and I was having issues with it. It weren't working properly, and that's part of the issue here. So I may try to clean this up later. Before I weld it back there, I might unclamp it, take it back out, and kind of clean this up and re-weld it, perhaps, and then do something from there. So as you can see, my exhaust manifold's clear perfectly with no issues, and this is that 351 Cleveland car manifold, not the truck manifold like I originally was going to go with, because it would not clear the bell housing. So, but it turned out really, really well. Like, there's plenty of room to get to everything. It clears the frame, and there's absolutely zero issues with it. It's and actually, ironically, this is a better setup for this than that modified or 400 truck manifold would have been, because even with them truck manifolds, even on the 400s, the bolts are like right here by the bell housing, and they're a little bit of a pain to get to on that bottom bolt. And on the 302, obviously, they're way up here, so they're harder to get to. This is like perfect. I can get a wrench with an extension, a ratchet with an extension right through here to that bolt, as well as this bolt here. Or if I want to, I can use a wrench on this side. Either way, it doesn't matter. And it's easy to get to. It's nice how it just turns down. It's so convenient. And there's not a tight bend in this at all. It's a very gradual bend, you can see. So it's very easy to modify the exhaust and make work, which is very nice. Love how that turned out. Everything clears so perfectly. Now, when it comes to the driver's side, you can see, again, welds ain't the best, but it don't matter. It holds and it don't leak. So When you get over here, this is the 400 and modified truck manifold here, as you can see. And it works perfectly. Like, there's absolutely zero issues with it. Everything clears perfectly. Now, I could have used the car manifold for the Cleveland as well. On this side, it's basically the exact same thing. But you can see how it works. Now, the bends are a little bit more, I guess, wonky for this to clear everything properly. But you can see the bolts are easy to get to. Absolutely zero problems. But the bends are a little wonky because of how it needs to go to clear the bell housing. So, you know, with that, but still not a big deal. It was easy to do, easy to fabricate, and it turned out really, really well. And I also put some sheathing there on my wiring harness just because, you know, even though it's far away from it, it should not have affected or melted it in any way, but I just wanted to be extra cautious with it. All right, so I just wanted to go over everything really quick about how it turned out, give you a more close-up view of what it actually looks like fully installed in the truck. And to give a little review, I love it. Like I said, I couldn't be happier with it. It turned out great. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun doing this engine build series, and I hope that y'all enjoyed it as well. And I hope you stuck along for the ride all the way up to this point. And there's more to come. I got more videos I'm gonna be doing on this Cleveland and things that I want to talk about and cover. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the drop box down below. So until next time, that's all there is for this one. So I'll see you on the next one. Take care.